Hi Nick, so here we are. Let's see what you've got here. What is exactly have you got there inside the...
Inside this little incubator
Yes.
we've got one of the world's rarest civets, and a civet is a small carnivore, and this particular one, an Austin civet, is from Vietnam and can be also found in Laos and right over the border into China, although numbers in China are very doubtful as to how many there are, and even in Vietnam we're seeing very, very few of them. They're one of the world's rarest, and so this one is the latest one born as part of our breeding program to help safeguard the species.
So how do we get into this position now? Why are we, looking after and hand rearing?
Well, unfortunately, there's very few of them in the captive breeding program, and there's a few here in the UK and also in our projects at Cuc Phuong National Park in Vietnam. The female that we have genetically is very important, and unfortunately she's not a very good mum. So she gets pregnant and gives birth every year, but sadly over the past 3 years has killed the offspring.
And how many do they normally have in a litter?
Well, she's actually like clockwork, so 1 year she'll have twins and the next year she'll have a singleton. Last year was twins, and so we knew that this year the likelihood is there'd be one. The reason I'm doing this is I'm just checking the milk's the right temperature.
Yeah, okay. So what sort of temperature does the milk need to be?
Lukewarm.
Here she is. So how old is she right now?
She was born last Tuesday and today's Wednesday, so she's
Just
now
over a week.
Just over a week.
And how does she look in proportion and health-wise as far as you see it now?
Well, it's very difficult to say because we're sort of in a bit of uncharted territory, really. We first wrote guidelines in 2002 based on data from the animals that were handed to us at the rescue centre in Cuc Phuong, and so so far as baby information is concerned, it's very limited because obviously they're normally curled up in a nest box and we don't get to see them. Now sometimes she won't take it straight away. In the wild, well, and in captivity, if they're being reared by their mother, when they're so young like this, the mother has to stimulate them to go to the toilet. Normally when we hand rear small carnivores like this, it's quite a simple case of a bit of wet cotton wool or tissue to stimulate the genital area to get them to go to the toilet. However, she sometimes needs to have that done before she'll feed.
Yeah.
So as I say, we're learning as we go really with her.
I presume we're sort of mimicking the mother.
Absolutely.
Cleaning her and encouraging her to obviously
Normally
do her
the mother
business.
would lick her and that would encourage her to go to the toilet. So I just use a warmed cotton wool ball. I think you're still quite sleepy, aren't you? And again, timings is difficult. Obviously babies will just feed when they're hungry, and so normally it's every 2 to 3 hours, but sometimes she'll go 4 or 5 hours where she's quite sleepy and she won't need a feed. There we go.
She's starting to go now?
Yeah, she's going to the toilet at the moment.
Oh, that's good. Also, that's quite an unusual position for her to have to go to the toilet being held like that, but she's never experienced it before. This is all she knows, isn't it? So
there we go. They've been to the toilet. Normally they, when they mature, they're particular about how they go to the toilet, and we think that the reason for how they go to the toilet is to keep predators away. So the adults will actually only defecate in water, and the forest that these guys live in can often be, they're often found around rivers, and so they'll actually only go to the toilet in running water, and so there's no feces to be left around for predators to alert them to where they are and where their nest is.
yeah.
And so when we have them here at the zoo, we have to provide them with a washing up bowl, and they do arch themselves over like that to go to the toilet.
So it's almost the opposite to most animals spreading the scent. They're actually
completely getting rid of it in that way.
Getting rid of it.
And their scent is quite unmistakable, and you can probably smell it even though she's only a tiny baby. Right from day one she's had this sort of particular civety smell about her, and that's one of the reasons that they are so endangered. Their meat, because it's so smelly, is highly prized as a very strong flavoured meat, particularly by people of China, where it's a highly prized meat.
So it's that old trade again where animals are taken for human consumption, and there she is.
No, she's not suckling that properly at all.
Not properly.
Oh. Now come on. Past 2 feeds today. She's not wanted to take.
She's on
properly.
Well, to be honest, that's really good what we've got already, because it looks like she's suckling.
Yeah.
We've got it.
Are you going to have any or not? I may have to leave her a couple more hours.
Yeah, that's all right. I can come back. You know, I'll follow you with this neck. And
it's difficult because I sort of pop my head in and see if she's up and looking for food. And if she is, then I'll feed her. So that's the tricky thing. Do you need more chocolate? Need a wee? She has been eating quite a lot on the past few feeds overnight, so it might just be that she's not hungry. Oh, turn it all around. Right, well, I might leave you in there. If you're not going to eat, you're not going to eat.
of course, if this was to happen in the wild, she'd be taken within hours, wouldn't she? Because a predator would pick her up in no time. So what would be her predator?
Mums actually carry them by the middle like that, and they'll move them around.
Yeah, so mum's obviously a lot bigger.
Yeah, and yeah, they're about 4 or 5 kilograms, the size of a sort of big house cat. Right. And it might be because you're not used to noise at feeding, isn't it?
Let's see if I can try and get actually a mouse suckling like that.
No, she's not.
No, she's not having it today. Well, not this feed anyway.
One more try. No, fine.
Okay.
And it's only when they're stressed will mum move them around. So if there's some reason to want to move them because there's a predator nearby, or there's some disturbance at the nest site, then that's why mum would then move them around. And obviously they snuggle up to mum, and that's where they keep warm.
Yeah.
And she's only a week old, but she had this much fur when she was born.
Right.
And the reason for that is up in northern Vietnam, where they're from, and in that range, it actually gets quite cold at night time, and winter in particular can be very cold. And so being fully furred is quite an advantage, because if mum goes out to feed and forage at night,